Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to our Bhakti Vaibhava class. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we're beginning chapter number 10 of the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Alright, let's share the screen. Is everyone okay? You can see the slide okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Yes.
So Unit 4, Canto 1, Chapters 10 to 13. Lesson 1. Principles of Leadership, the Reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira. We're going to hear first the overview of the chapter. So we remember last chapter, chapter 9, we were talking about the departure of grandfather Bhishma Dev, leaving the world. And prior to his leaving the world, he spent many days instructing Maharaj Yudhisthira. And he was instructing Maharaj Yudhisthira in how to rule the kingdom, how to look after the welfare of all the citizens. So, chapter 10 begins with Shaunaka Rishi questioning Sudha Goswami about Maharaj Yudhisthira's rule after the Kurukshetra battle. Of course, we heard about how some 640 million people had died during the war. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was certainly in a difficult state. He was very much disturbed, considered himself to be responsible for the death of all these people. And Bhishma Dev certainly did his best to pacify the mind of Yudhisthira Maharaj and encourage him to take the responsibility and rule, because ultimately this was the desire of Lord Kṛṣṇa. That Lord Kṛṣṇa, who was personally present with them, desired to see the Pandavas rule the world. So, in reply to Shaunaka Rishi's question, Sutta Goswami describes the situation during Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign. And we'll spend the class today, we're going to be spending the class just discussing this situation. What exactly was the situation during Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign? After that, then we'll hear about Lord Krishna's departure, leaving Hastinapur and going to Dvārakā. Right? This was Queen Kunti's prayers, that her ties of affection, she was tied to Hastinapur, at the same time she had affection for Dvārakā. So difficult to disentangle herself, her affection for both places. So then we will hear about the ladies of Hastinapur and their wonderful appreciation of Lord Kṛṣṇa. The ladies of Hastinapur are all on the rooftops watching Lord Kṛṣṇa leave to Dvārakā, and they're offering very nice words. And then at the end of the chapter we will hear how the Lord accepts the prayers of the ladies and goes off to Dvārakā. All right, so this is the topics. We'll have one lesson, one class today about the first section, and then tomorrow, or rather next week, we will study the other two sections on the Saturday, and we'll go on to chapter 11 on Sunday. So this section was entitled about principles of leadership. Leadership, right? But it's an interesting topic. Of course, you know, we don't really think of ourselves as being leaders, but we're all members of ISKCON, and just by the fact that we're members of ISKCON, we have a responsibility to the society to lead them and to show the right example. It's important for all of us, therefore, to understand the principles of leadership. Sometimes we think that leadership is only for the people on the top, only for the managers, but managing is different from leadership. I was listening to one well-known speaker on leadership, and he was saying that nobody likes to be managed. You know, nobody says, manage me. But we're happy to be led. We want a leader. We want somebody we can follow. We don't like people managing us, but we like to be led. So leadership, very important. And the leadership can also come from down. It's not that leaders are all on the top. You have also people on the bottom level. They can also be wonderful leaders. A lot of these big people, that, you know, like the CEO or the big administrators, they may be big administrators, but doesn't mean they're leaders. They may not be showing the proper nature of leaders. Anyway, here, in the case of Maharaj Yudhishthira, certainly we're talking about leadership from the top. So, we begin here. We ask you, have a look at the purport to text number 3. Let's first start with the chapter. Let me get the text. Just a minute, I'll put the text up on the screen here and we can look at it. I wanted to show you, here. The first verse, right? Shona, can you see the verse, everyone?
No, we can't.
Huh?
No.
Oh, you're not able to see it. Wait, I'll have to share the screen again then. Can you see it now?
Yes.
You can see the text, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the first verse of the 10th chapter, right? And I've marked two significant words. Shonaka Rishi was speaking, and he, although it's not mentioned in the English, it's actually there in the Sanskrit. And when Prabhupada was giving a lecture on this verse, he quoted this. He quoted this statement, this Pradyavarudha Bhojana, that Maharaj Yudhisthira, because Maharaj Yudhisthira felt himself to be responsible for the death of so many people, so he was doing atonement. You know, when you perform some sinful activity, then we will want to atone for it. If we have a good consciousness, if we have a guilty consciousness, we will want to make some kind of atonement to try to make up for what we've done. And these two words indicate that Maharaj Yudhisthira was doing like that. Restricted acceptance of necessities, bhojana. Of course, it's the food. He reduced his eating. That's one type of atonement which would make. Certainly, you can understand after the battle of Kurukshetra, with the death of so many of his citizens, so many friends and relatives, the sons, and so many people died. So he did not have much appetite. You're not going to feel like enjoying after seeing so many people die. You won't have much appetite. So it's mentioned like this by Shonaka Rishi, that was he able to rule? Surely he could not freely enjoy the kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. Certainly his consciousness was not unrestricted. He was feeling very disturbed by the death of so many people during the battle. So Shonaka Rishi makes this inquiry that what was the situation? And then text number 2 begins with Sutta Goswami's reply, and he describes about how Lord Kṛṣṇa is the maintainer of the world, and Maharaj Yudhisthira, Lord Kṛṣṇa is happy to see Maharaj Yudhisthira on the throne, and that the Kuru dynasty has now been established under Maharaj Yudhisthira. So Kṛṣṇa wanted this, he arranged like this. And Prabhupada describes, like a bamboo forest, fire takes place, nobody's responsible. So it's the arrangement of Kṛṣṇa, it was the plan of the Lord. The Lord wanted that Maharaj Yudhisthira was on the throne, and that the people have a better chance to become God conscious. Prabhupada writes, the battle, just here at the end of the verse, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of the Lord, so that undesirable persons could get out of the world, and a peaceful kingdom under his devotee could be established. The Lord was therefore fully satisfied when King Yudhisthira was on the throne, and the seedling of the dynasty of Kuru in the person of Maharaj Parikshit was saved. Right? So, like that. And then Sutta Goswami then goes on to describe the situation with Maharaj Yudhisthira on the throne. What happens? What's the situation in the kingdom? We're going to hear about it, though. This is the 3rd verse, right? And so this is the question which we're asking you. Can you see this text?
Yes.
Okay, principles of leadership. in the purport, it says the modern elected executive head of a state is just like a puppet. So we ask you, can you identify some general principles of leadership given in this purport? Would you like to take a few minutes and just read over the purport and see if you can pick out some principles of leadership which are given here? We'll give you five minutes to read it over. All right? Do you need more time?
Rajshekar Prabhu has raised his hand, Maharaj.
Okay, so we'll hear from Rajshekar. Please give us just one item which you think is important.
It has been said that modern politicians, they don't have the kingly power. they don't have power. They are democracy, they don't have got the power. That is one point.
Okay. So you're saying you're in favor of monarchy rather than democracy?
Yes, Maharaj.
You're saying this is... All right. So, does everyone agree with this? Of course, nowadays we don't have monarchs, we don't have kings, but you know, you do have situations where politicians become like a king. You can see, for example, in China today, they have the head of the Communist Party, Xi Jinping, that after he became the head, they made it a rule that he would stay for life. So previously it was they would elect a new chairman every 4 years. But after he came in, they changed it that he's in for life and he's in charge for life. So he becomes like the emperor of China again. So he's not a king, but he made himself like a king. So you do have that kind of thing. And similarly, there was the similar case was there in Cuba. Fidel Castro was ruling Cuba, and that was for life. He ruled it for life. So he was like a king without actually being a king. And you have the same North Korea, the communists, these communist countries, they're dictatorships. Today, where we have kings, they don't have any power. Anybody else like to comment on this point about having the leader should have kingly power? Yes?
In fact, when Sri Prabhupada used to speak to Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi, he used to say that you take leave, let us discuss the Bhagavad Gita over the India and let Sanjay Gandhi be Prime Minister. So let him do, and we should teach Bhagavad Gita. That's what philosophy of Sri Prabhupada.
Oh, I didn't quite understand everything you said. You said Indira Gandhi, Prabhupada wanted Indira Gandhi to
engage her in the teaching of Bhagavad Gita.
Oh.
Leave the politics and hand over charge to his son Sanjay Gandhi.
Okay. I know Prabhupada wanted that all the members of parliament should be twice initiated Brahmins. And he wanted that they should all follow the 4 principles. That was one of the proposals he was going to put to Indira Gandhi. So sometimes the modern day politicians are like kings. Kingly power. We don't see any kings in the present time in the world today. There are kings, but they have no power. Maybe in the Arab states. In the Arab states where there are rulers, they have power. All right, any other quality here we can hear from somebody else? Anybody else has their hand raised, they can contribute?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please.
Maharaj Yudhisthira, he had full knowledge based upon the instructions of Bhishma Dev and Lord Krishna, and therefore he could rule the world, because it wasn't a concocted ideology. He just followed the instructions of the Lord, and as a result, everything went very smoothly, because it was just empowered. He was an instrument in Krishna's hands. So this is a very important principle for leadership, within our movement and hopefully in the world someday.
What is the principle?
Well, that one should have full knowledge. One should be well trained.
Yes, right. I agree with that. Yes, one has to be well trained. Proper training has to be there. Yeah, one training and that Prabhupada seems to indicate that here in the purport, the importance of the training that he heard. He heard, of course, he'd heard from Grandfather Bhishma, and he'd heard from Lord Kṛṣṇa, and probably as a child also he'd been trained. Dronacharya was there teaching them. Other great sages were coming and teaching them in the royal family. They would certainly get the opportunity for good education. Education according to scriptures and according to moral principles, proper behavior, standard behavior, and how to deal with others. Like that. So this education, training, very, very important. Yeah, and I appreciate also your point that you say he won't have any of his own ideologies. Rather, what will be guiding him? He won't have his own ideologies, but he'll be guided by
Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra.
Yeah, we would think so, that he must be taking guidance according to spiritual authorities. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra would be there. So in this way, Maharaj Yudhisthira would be able to properly rule the kingdom. And also, any other points?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
In the beginning of the purport, it mentions how Maharaj Yudhisthira, although he's the monarch, he would work with full cooperation of his younger brothers who were very dharmic. So he was the king, monarch, but he would be speaking with, obviously, and taking advice from his younger brothers. And later on it mentions also that he had no personal motive, that they was perfectly religious. So that's the ingredients for the kingdom. I can imagine if there's a king who's an atheist and all his advisors are atheists, then they're all going to have personal motives. But only devotee can be free of personal motive.
Yes, very nice. Yes, I agree with this. I would appreciate your points here. Very nice that he had cooperation with his brothers, and they didn't have any of their own motives in ruling. It wasn't that they had some self-motivation just for their own sense gratification. They were free from these kind of material desires. So that's very rare, of course, today to find people like that. And the result of the fact that the result of their ruling was shown that the world, Prabhupada writes, the world was happy in those days. So when you get the good ruler, then it makes so much easier. The people are happy. Just like we hear about during the times of Lord Ramachandra, Ram Raja, Lord Rama had the policy that anybody has any complaints, they can come. They can come and come, but nobody ever came. Everybody was so fully satisfied, so happy. Everyone had all their needs, they had no scarcity. And although Lord Ramachandra was there and he had the power, anybody can come and tell that whatever's wrong, whatever complaints they have, he's ready to hear, but nobody would come. So similarly here, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the perfect ruler, that because he has no selfish motives, without any personal motive and manufactured ideology, therefore he could rule very nicely. And it mentions that the principles were infallible and universally applicable to everyone. So that's also a very interesting point, that it's applicable to everyone, for everyone, not just for a few, not just for some special people or for some low class or high class or whatever, but it's principles which are valid for everyone. And infallible principles. Infallible, they can't go wrong, they're going to work. It's all going to take place, it's all going to happen nicely. So in this way we see some of the principles. Anybody else? Any other points somebody would like to add?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Maharaji, one more thing is that here example is given as Indra, Chandra, they are the representative of a planet. Same way, there must be one leader for the entire, who is representative of Kṛṣṇa, and then other leaders should follow. Because government doesn't mean government, it means the person itself. So there must be one leader of the earth who is representative of Kṛṣṇa, and then other leaders like Pandava's brothers were following him. Other leaders should follow that one leader.
So you're saying you want to see monarchy, one king, one ruler.
Yes, Maharaj.
But they have a saying that power corrupts, and absolute power can corrupt absolutely. This is the problem when you put one person in charge, you see. And we see, for example, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and our own founder Acharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they didn't want to put one person in charge because they thought, very dangerous. Very dangerous. You put one person in charge, and if he goes wrong, then the whole thing falls apart. So that's the problem, right? What can you say in reply to this?
Maharaji, like Prabhupada is the one person who is perfect representative of Kṛṣṇa, and all other leaders are following that one leader. That's why everyone is going on the right path. So there is one leader, as I can understand, maybe my understanding is totally wrong, Maharaji.
Well, you're saying, yeah, Prabhupada, but Prabhupada became prominent in his old age. And Prabhupada didn't put one leader behind him to carry on.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to have some living person, right? We can't just say, we follow Prabhupada's teachings, but we can't have Prabhupada to make the decisions for us every time. There's going to be many decisions to be made, and Prabhupada's not physically present. So just like we say, you have to take initiation. When you come to take initiation, you have to take from a living person. And similarly, you're going to have a ruler, a leader. It has to be a person who's physically present to lead us. We cannot be led by somebody who was in the world 100 years ago and who's gone now. You know, you can take shelter of his teachings, you can associate with his teachings, but still you need the physical presence of people, of some leaders. Isn't it?
Yes, madam. I got it, madam. Yes.
So just like in ISKCON, we could say, well, we're all following Prabhupada. Yes, we are. Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru for everyone. He's a guru for all the devotees. And we take shelter of his teachings. But still, we need the living example. We need to have the living persons there to guide us, and we have to see that example. But my point is that if it's just one person, then it's dangerous. So when we teach the disciple course, at least in ISKCON, we encourage the devotees that you don't just take shelter only of Prabhupada, but you have also Diksha Guru, and you have also Shiksha Gurus, right? And in this way, you have some good shelter, you have some good protection if something does go wrong. This is the danger with having just one person, a leader. If you have a great soul like Maharaj Yudhisthira, of course then, okay, it's not such a big problem, because he's not going to go wrong. The Pandavas are not ordinary souls. They're not ordinary souls coming out of the material world. Any response on this from the devotees? How do you feel?
I have a response.
Yes, Prabhu?
Yeah, I don't know. Should we be in the hand-raising modality? Or so it's hard to know what to do. So it seems to me like just with Maharaj Yudhisthira, he was specifically empowered by Kṛṣṇa. Prabhupada was specifically empowered by Kṛṣṇa. So sometimes very, very empowered personalities come to the planet, and that's what would be required to make it work with monarchy, and that would be, I think, self-evident if such a personality were to manifest, if Kṛṣṇa were to send someone like that. I mean, Prabhupada, his vision was that the GBC was the ultimate managerial authority for ISKCON, and so that's, in many ways, there's one professor, what's his name? I can't think now, but he was, he met with Srila Prabhupada in Philadelphia at the Rath Yatra one year. He was from Franklin and Marshall College. His name is escaping me right now. But he, recently there was a presentation that he made at Harvard Divinity School, and he compared Christianity, Islam, and the Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement. And he's, in his comparison, he saw that the first 50 years of ISKCON was even better than the first 50 years of Christianity or Islam. And why was that? I mean, Prabhupada had a vision. There's been challenges, no doubt, in the last 50 years, 50 plus years now. And some of the leaders didn't do well, but the GBCs kept going, and ISKCON is thriving. Some places not thriving as much as others, but it's doing remarkably well. There's so many books being distributed, so many new devotees joining. Literally millions of people are coming to Kṛṣṇa consciousness. You know, the Mayapur Institute now has the biggest enrollment ever, all online. So, you know, things are looking up. But there's still in all, there's always that scope, you know, that there will be a specifically empowered personality that Krishna will send to enact this principle that comes from Vedic times of one world government and spiritual communism. Definitely part of Prabhupada's vision, he saw the fallibility of it, trying to enact that after his departure. The same thing with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But that's not to say that some great personality won't come. Anyway.
Okay, yes. Yes, some people would say like this, that we need some great personality to come. And in the absence of great personalities, then we just simply have our GBC, or we have the board of management. Of course, in Maharaj Yudhishthir's time, Maharaj Yudhishthir would also be guided by Brahmanas. There was also the Brahminical council would be there, you know, the Brahmins would be there to guide him, and he'd certainly have them to hear about how to improve the government. It's not that he was just independent, just doing everything on his own. He had his 4 brothers. Then he had all the Brahmanas there as well. Certainly he'd be hearing from them. And he's going to also perform yagyas, do sacrifices, great sacrifices with the help of the Brahmanas. And above all that, he has Lord Kṛṣṇa personally there. He has Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there behind him or backing him up. So what more could you want than that? Okay, so let me see, where am I? What is... Okay, identify principle. Okay, we covered this. Going ahead, here's a quote from the purport. The conception of one world state, Chinmastami Prabhu just mentioned that about the one world state. It can only be fulfilled if we can follow the infallible authority. An imperfect human being cannot create an ideology acceptable to everyone. Only the perfect and the infallible can create a program which is applicable at every place and can be followed by all in the world. So this idea, the one world state, very idealistic, hard to imagine today. But in Maharaj Yudhishthir's time it was like that he was ruling the world. Although there were different states, but they were all under the one Hastinapur. The royal palace was there, and they ruled the whole world, and he could perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. Of course, he was guided by proper authorities. The imperfect person cannot come up. We have a lot of imperfect persons. We have, like, you know, Karl Marx and his communist theory, and then you have different political parties in every different country. In America, you have Republicans, and in England, you have the Conservative and the Labours and the Liberal, and then you have the Scottish National Party, and you have so many different individuals. They all come up with their ideology, what they want to do. So what is applicable can be followed by the whole world. This is the point. Prabhupada writes, it is the person who rules, not the impersonal government. If the person is perfect, the government is perfect. So the government's not just there to make rules. The government are there, they're meant to take care of the people. We don't put a government in place just to make laws for the people to follow. The government are meant to provide, to make arrangements, to provide everything for the people. And Prabhupada spoke, one of the lectures I was hearing Prabhupada speak, he was saying he had gone to the UK and he said in England they can practically produce nothing. He said just some potatoes is about all they can grow. He said, but the government make arrangements and they bring in so many vegetables and fruits from all over the world to provide for the people. So that's the duty of the government, to provide, make sure that there's always enough food for the people. If there's a scarcity of food, then it comes on the government. The government are not doing their job. So government have that kind of duty, to take care of the people, keep the people happy. If the government make laws and the people come out and riot against it, there was a case in Hong Kong a year or two ago. The government made a law and like 2 million people came out on the streets to protest about it. And so, that was a big mistake of the government. They didn't understand the minds of the people. The government have to know how to keep the people happy. And you can't just beat them and make them happy. That's not really the mood of a leader. Leadership is not, you can't just beat the people into submission to do what they want. The leadership, when you have the proper leadership, the people will want to follow. There has to be that mood that you're willing to sacrifice your life for these people, that you really appreciate them. There has to be that kind of loving relationship between the mass of people and the leader. Therefore, the executive head must be a trained person like Maharaj Yudhisthira, and he must have the full autocratic power to rule over the world. So Prabhupada mentions about how, we should have an autocratic ruler. So, very, very special. Put somebody in charge. Could you imagine one person ruling the whole world? I think just recently, just the other day, they had a revolution in Burma, in Myanmar. And they had put a democratic party in power, but one of the dictators, he came and they've overthrown the government and a lot of instability going on. So this is very common all over the world, even just for one little country. What to speak of the whole planet, if you have one person ruling the whole planet. Another quote, this world is created by Kṛṣṇa and he wants to see it properly maintained. And who will maintain? His own representative, not the demons. Therefore, king is supposed to be a representative of Kṛṣṇa. He will maintain this world properly. A Vaishnava, he knows how to utilize everything for Kṛṣṇa. So, an important qualification is he must be a representative of Kṛṣṇa. Without that, then we cannot be very sure of the future. The aim of this creation is giving these conditioned souls another chance for liberation. That is the purpose. When he saw, now Maharaj Yudhisthira is situated on the throne for the control of the world, he, Pritamana Bhavaha, he became satisfied. There is my real representative, and he will work nicely. Prabhupada lecturing on the second verse of this chapter here in Mayapur. So he understood Kṛṣṇa was thinking, there is my real representative. He will work nicely. So Bhishma Dev was happy to see Maharaj Yudhisthira on the throne, and Lord Kṛṣṇa is also happy to see Maharaj Yudhisthira on the throne. So they trust him, they have faith in him. And because they have faith, certainly many others will also have faith. Maharaj Yudhisthira had no ideology of his own. He had but to follow the instructions of the infallible Lord and the Lord's representative and the authorized agent, Bhishma Dev. It is instructed in the Shastras that one should follow the great authority and the infallible Lord without any personal motive and manufactured ideology. So some important points here. You can see no personal motive, no manufactured ideology. We brought this up, right? And he must be following the instructions. Follow the Lord and Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, right? Sadhu, Bhishma Dev, Shastra, spoken by Lord Kṛṣṇa. Guru is also Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, it was possible for Maharaj Yudhisthira to rule the whole world, including the seas, because the principles were infallible and universally applicable to everyone. So, to have a world ruler, Maharaj Yudhisthira, one world under one king. Certainly, we could think, well, it's very nice. We don't have to pay for so many politicians. We just have one ruler. Makes it much easier. If you have any complaints, any problems, you just go to that person or to his representative. Of course, how many people can you take care of? Psychologists today, they say, you can't have more than 150 close friends or connections. To have more than 150 people will be practically impossible. You can't remember them. Can't remember who they are, you know. Somebody has if you have 1,000 disciples, you don't know them. You can't remember them. So you can have about 150 close connections, but no more than that. But after that, then you have to have another level. You have to have levels of people, so that people need to feel cared for. You have to set up a system, just like we try to do in ISKCON. We try to set up systems like that, so that everybody is taken care of. They feel wanted. They feel connected. So, here's a little exercise for you. Discuss the conditions brought about by Maharaj Yudhisthira following the Lord's plan. How many people do we have here today?
We have 20, Maharaj.
20? So, how many groups can we make?
20 can participate, Maharaj.
Yes, so we want to have about, we could have six groups, 3 people in each group and 4 in 2 groups. Is that all right? Because
Yes, Maharaj.
we made it like this, 6 groups. So group 1 and group 3 will take text 4, and group 2 and group 4 will take text 5, and group 3 and group 6 will take text 6. And we want you to consider, on the basis of this particular verse, present the points which came about due to Maharaj Yudhisthira's rule. What were the conditions which Maharaj Yudhisthira developed within the kingdom in order to bring natural prosperity for all the people. According to the Lord's plan, follow the Lord's plan. What are the significant points which Prabhupada makes in these three texts? So, can you make 6 groups, Maharaji?
Already done.
Already done? Okay, so everyone go to the group and note the text. 4. Oh, if you're in 1 or 3, then text number 4.
Maharaj, you need to tell them the timing, how much time.
Yeah, 10 minutes. About 10-15 minutes would be good. We'll see how much time you need.
I have opened the rooms, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Group 5 needs to do for text 6 because here it is written group 3 and 6 for 6.
Kṛṣṇa.
To join the room.
Mataji, sorry, there might be a problem with the structure of the question. Because you've got group 1 and 3 doing text 4, you've got group 3 again doing text 6.
You don't understand the question?
Yeah, if you just look at the groups, Mataji.
I need to ask Maharaj. Maharaj, are you there?
Yes?
So you join the class, and if there is any confusion, others will...
Which group are you in, Prabhu?
Okay, alright, thank you, Mataji. I'm going to join.
Which group?
Okay.
Which group was he in?
Sorry, Mataji, can you just send me the message to join that room again? It seems like it's disappeared off my screen.
Yeah, I need the message also, Maharaji. Can you hear me? She's not hearing you.
Those points we could mention. Then the purple. The basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. The necessities of human society are food, grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly one does not require flesh and fish or iron at all.
Are we ready?
Yes, almost.
So the point is
Lord and sages. That's why he had no enemy. So that's why he could rule over the whole kingdom, whole earth, very easily.
Okay, that's a good point. Gopal Kanisham Prabhu, you got that point.
Yes, Lord.
Okay. So maybe we should take down about 4 or 5 points. So that's, how many points do you have at the moment? And the other point you could put is in terms of the conditions, stating here that at that time the whole world was united. So everyone was free from anxiety, diseases, etc.
How much time do we have left before attendance is up?
No, you have another 5 minutes.
How
Go
much time
ahead.
we broke? Anybody notice?
You can have 5. You have 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so so anybody want to make some points to start with?
yes, I have made a few points.
Why don't you make one and then we'll share the forum, okay? That may be the best.
Been covered by both of you, so I think it is absolutely. I can just repeat what you just mentioned. Shall I repeat?
Yes.
Okay.
One more point actually. We should not exploit the natural reserves. If you don't exploit the natural reserves, and like all the Ishavasya principle of the Ishopanishads, if you follow the everything belongs to the Lord, you have to take what is your quota, then and don't exploit the natural reserves, then it will be successful. Hare Krishna. So you can.
Hare Krishna, Padmasundari, can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, I think we can give them another 5 minutes.
Okay, Maharaj.
what is the assignment we got to see how did Yudhishthira Maharaj bring the conditions of the world to prosperity? Was that the question?
Yes, it's the conditions, yes.
Discuss the conditions brought about.
How he did it? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Well, it's not
how
really.
He did, it's not really how he did it. It is what happened during his reign.
Okay. What conditions he brought? Okay.
And on the end of the purport also, Prabhupada mentioned.
I think the question is, what was the benefits from Maharaj Yudhishthira's rule? So, well, one is that no animals were slaughtered, isn't it?
Yes.
Not just the cows, but the innocent animals were protected.
Right. And also artificial luxuries like a cinema cards, radio, flash, no need.
Yeah, there was no
hotels. That is not necessary to that. When that's
places of prostitution, etc. You mentioned, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Just looking here, there was no need for cinemas.
Right. Cars, radio, and then.
Yeah.
Blesses, everything works out fine.
Basically, is Mother Nature and Father the Almighty. Mother Nature and Father Almighty. So these things goes together, and then everybody will be happy. Mother Nature and Father Almighty.
How much more time do you think you need, Janmashtami, Prabhu?
I think we're all set.
All set? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll just tell her. Let me check the other groups.
All right. So, any other points? Are you everything clear, Amala Manjari?
I got 4 points. First,
You can cite an example.
How are you doing, Prabhus? Do you need much more time?
Raj, I think we're okay.
No, we have finished.
You finished? Okay, good. Thank you.
Maharaj, can I close the rooms?
Yes, please close the rooms. Thank you.
I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please close it.
Yeah, thank you.
Maharaj, it looks like everyone's back from their rooms.
Oh, good. Everyone's back? Okay. I was just looking, where's the board here? I thought there was a board. We could write down some of the main points in the discussion.
There is a board, Maharaj. You can, when you share, you can see a white board.
When I share?
Yeah, sharing screen.
Oh, okay.
It
Oh,
also
yeah.
has a white board.
Right. Okay. So, which one we want? Whiteboard. Okay. Thank you. So, group 1. Would somebody like to type for us the main points?
Hare Krishna Raj.
Yeah.
Reporting in for group 1.
Okay, but I need a volunteer, someone to write on the board. Can everyone see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay, who's a typist?
Not many volunteers.
Maharaji, I have asked you for a request. I may try.
Okay.
Okay, so speaking on verse 4, some points from verse 4 in the purple. The cows had plenty of grazing ground, and they would produce plenty of milk.
You muted yourself, Prabhu.
Oh, am I? Well, it doesn't show mute here.
And now we can hear.
He's not muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Something happened there. So from verse 4, the cows produced enough milk in profusion. There was a profusion of milk. The cows are well taken care of. Not only the cows, but Prabhupada mentions in the purple that also all the animals were protected.
All right, so we could say animals, animal cow protection or animal protection.
Yeah, cow protection. Prabhupada mentioned the defenseless creatures who cannot protect themselves. They was all protected.
All right. Would you like to add that on the whiteboard, Prabhu? First one?
I'm not able to write. Mataji, how to write? I'm not able to write.
You can type.
I'm trying to type, Mataji.
Okay.
You need to...
I think it's perhaps only the host who can do that, or the co-host can write on the board.
No, everybody can do that. Maharaj doesn't move the cursor, then it can...
What do I need to do?
Cursor is being moving when I am trying, but it's not typing anything.
Okay.
I am giving up.
Are you not able to type anything?
No, Mataji.
There's a pen that's visible, so it looks like it's in the wrong modality. The whiteboard.
Even I'm not able to draw.
Yeah.
Maharaj, can I do the screen sharing so
Yep.
that I can allow them to
Okay,
type?
please. Yeah.
I'm just stopping your sharing. Okay, Maharaj, I think it's better I type.
Okay. So number 1, cow protection. And the result was a profuse supply of milk. Okay. What's another point, Prabhu?
There was regulated rainfall. In other words, it wouldn't rain too much, it wouldn't rain too less.
Okay, so seasons regulated.
Yeah. And that regulated rainfall in conjunction with astronomical influences produce plenty of jewels and diamonds. And
Okay. Seasons regulated, what to say?
And combined with astronomical influence, then it produced jewels and rains, the regulated seasons in combination with astronomical influence produced jewels and gems.
Astronomical. Should be astrological, not astronomical.
And perhaps just we covered some other points saying, but also there was no need for artificial things. That Prabhupada lists things like cinemas, places of prostitution, etc.
So no cinemas, no places of...
Yeah, I'm just looking at purple. Yes.
No places of decadence, or...
You said there was no cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels. Yeah, no cars. And one mother mentioned in their group also that this led to everything being all organic. Everything was organic. Nothing was. There was no chemicals. Everything, the earth was producing all the vegetables in abundance. So everything was organic.
All right.
Prabhupada doesn't use that word in the purple. But
yeah, you've brought it in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mother.
Okay, very good. That's group number
1.
All right, now group number 1 was doing the same one as group number 3, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
So group number 3, do you have any other points to add to this?
Yes, Maharaj. One point was when the ruler is in alignment with the plan of the Lord and emphasis of the Lord, and if the ruler is trained by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra and is caring for the Praja and wants everyone to be Krishna conscious, then Krishna blesses the kingdom with everything and then everyone will be happy.
Aligned with the plan of the Lord, everyone will be happy. And what's this? Trained by?
Guru, Sadhu, Shastra.
Okay. Everyone? Okay. Any other points? Everything else would maybe...
Yeah, if Mother Nature and Father Almighty are happy, then there is happiness.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we'll hear from group number 2.
Yes, Maharaj. I was selected by the devotees. So, the river, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, etc., they tax their quota to the king, and the secret is to such as is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. So all the things which were mentioned in
protection of the Supreme Lord is what should I type?
To take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord, then the ruler shall understand that everything is Lord.
Everything is what?
everything is Lord's. It's the possession of the Lord. Belongs to the Supreme Lord. Everything belongs to the Supreme Lord.
Everything's the property of the Lord.
Yes, the king shall understand this. And also everything is done under the sanction of the Lord.
Oh, the sanction, everything. Yeah?
Yes. Then the duty of the ruler is to please the Lord.
No, you're not really answering the question so well, Prabhu.
Is that?
You haven't really dealt with the question, what we wanted from you.
We were discussing about what was the principles, what Maharaj Yudhishthira have done with why the things were like this?
Well, that's not what you were asked. Right? We wanted to see the results. We wanted to know how the planet prospered under Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign. We spoke about his qualities, we wanted to see the effects.
So there was the things that the rivers, oceans, hills put their taxes to the king.
Yeah, but how did they pay their taxes to the king?
They give everything.
Okay, let's hear from the other group. Let's hear group number 4. Is it group 4 or group 5? Group 4, huh?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was selected for the group 4. If you give permission, shall I start?
Yes, please start.
Okay, so the group came out with the points that in the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, Maharaj Yudhishthira was a representative of the Lord, and the secret of success for his rule was that he used to take the shelter of the Lord, and the Lord was always pleased with him. So the rivers, hills, drugs, and all the natural resources were abundantly available for the happiness of his subjects, because
okay, so natural resources were all available.
Since in the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was no exploitation, there were no industries, so everybody used to take their own quota, and they were not greedy, and everybody was not believing in any exploitation. There was no enmity between man and animal, so everybody was friendly to each other, and they were not having any vested interest of exploiting the material nature or natural resources.
Oh, very good, yes. People were harmonious, they worked together peacefully, cooperated.
So there was no competition between individual and nation and any nation. So everybody and everything was in total and perfect harmony.
Okay, good. Anything else?
Which verse number is he covering?
Which verse?
Number 5.
Verse number 5, okay.
So I request other members, if I missed out any points, so they may kindly add.
No, this was very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
So we'll go to another group. We can hear group 3. We already did. Group number, which one? Group 2, 3, group 4, group 5.
Group 5 wasn't on the list.
There's no group 5. Group 6.
But we answered, we had the discussion. We discussed text number 6.
Where are the answers? I don't see any answers. Text number 6. We had
group number 6. Group number 6. We had text number 6. So the points should come up with. So the whole world was united. And as the whole was united, and all the inhabitants were free from anxiety, disease, and excessive heat and cold. Second point is full cooperation between man and God and man and nature. The people were not only economically well-to-do but also physically fit and undisturbed by supernatural power. Undisturbed by supernatural power, were not only economically well-to-do but also physically fit. And not disturbed by bodily and mental agonies. And all citizens were protected directly by the Lord as agents.
Citizens?
All citizens were directly protected by the Lord and His authorized agents.
Very good. Okay. So we can see the benefits of having such a wonderful ruler. How wonderful.
There was a mistake on the slide. Instead of having group 5, it said group 3 again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently group 5 did function. That's what Chandrika Mataji was saying.
Uh-huh.
Got a report to make, it seems.
Okay, let's hear. Group 5.
Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, this is Chikantai. I was chosen for group 5. We have taken text number 6. I'd just like to add some of the points which were missed up. One was the nation had no enemies.
No enemies.
And the king was fully pious. Pious, he was obedient to the Lord and the sages. And there was full cooperation between man, God, and nature.
Cooperation between man, God, and nature.
It's already here.
Okay.
There was no exploitation of others.
No exploitation of others. Okay.
And no temples. And there only one nation.
All right. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. We can see so many wonderful situations on the planet because of the rule of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Everybody's...
Maharaj?
Huh?
Can I stop the sharing?
Yes. We can stop the sharing now. Thank you. We'll go back to the slide. All right. So the conditions brought about by Maharaj Yudhisthira's rule were very wonderful. Everyone was provided for, everyone was happy. Of course, it wasn't Kali Yuga, that's one point. Lord Kṛṣṇa was still on the planet. Lord Kṛṣṇa hadn't disappeared yet. So the world was very auspicious, a very wonderful situation. Everything was very nice. Okay. Some quotes from Prabhupada, from purport of text number 4. Therefore, in contrast with the modern advanced civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhisthira's is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man, less than an animal, is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. So this is an important point, protecting the animals. And Prabhupada compares these leaders to less than animal. Less than animal. Cast votes for another less than animal man. Prabhupada certainly has a realistic opinion of these so-called politicians. And they're nothing compared to someone like Maharaj Yudhisthira. To produce a new species of humanity at the present moment on the basis of God consciousness and perfection of human life, the ideology of godly communism, the world has to again follow in the footsteps of kings like Maharaj Yudhisthira or Parikshit. So, just to look at the objectives, we talked about chapter 9, we heard about the passing away of grandfather Bhishma Dev, and chapter 10 comes into the rule of Maharaj Yudhisthira. And we spoke about the contents of the chapter. Shonika asked about how did Maharaj Yudhisthira rule, and Sutta Goswami replies, and we've been hearing about the opulent condition of the planet under the rule of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Right? And then later on we'll hear also about Lord Kṛṣṇa going to Dvārakā and the prayers offered by the ladies of Hastinapur glorifying Lord Kṛṣṇa. By way of preaching application, we've talked about the conditions of the world during the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, covered in these first few verses, how the world was so opulent, no scarcity, everything's very nice, very wonderful, people even working together harmoniously under one king. Personal application. Certain principles of leadership Prabhupada establishes during the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira and discuss their application for a leader in ISKCON. So this is something we can think about now. General principles of leadership which Prabhupada establishes and how we could apply them for a leader in ISKCON. Any thoughts on this? Certain principles of leadership. We spoke about different principles of leadership. You know, how did we describe Maharaj Yudhisthira? First of all, training, right? So, this is coming into role nowadays within ISKCON. We have things like the GBC College, right? And you have You have also the sannyasis also, they get special courses and training. They meet together online and these kind of things. So training is coming more into the role in ISKCON. The opportunity for leaders to get training. Previously, in Prabhupada's time, the leaders really didn't have any training. And we were very young and inexperienced. So certainly it would be difficult, there'd be problems. But nowadays, to be a leader, they have so much training they have to go through. Any other comments? What are other leadership principles in ISKCON, which Prabhupada establishes?
Hare Krishna?
Yes?
Maharaj, one thing that is mentioned that the leader was always looking for the welfare of the citizens. This was his highest priority.
The welfare of who?
Of the citizens or the people that he's leading.
That's a very good point. Very good, yeah, because I always hear, when I listen to these different leadership classes, they always speak about the importance of people. Rather than thinking about results, you have to think about people. It's very, very important. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Prabhu. Very nice point. How do we apply it in ISKCON? Do you see that as far as leaders in ISKCON go, that we're very conscious about people? Do we give proper attention to the people?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Pranams. Maharaj, I have been involved with some of the surveys, etc., discussions with various temples. And one of the points that came up was that the people, at least in the groups that I had discussed this with, felt that they had very little interaction with the leadership themselves. There seems to be a disjoint.
Well, when you speak of leaders, are you talking about managerial leaders?
Yes, I'm talking about that.
So when we have to understand leaders not just simply in the sense of somebody who's a manager, an administrator. Someone could be a leader without doing all of the, without having this title, and having that authority. But they could be seen as a leader. I think this is an important point, that within ISKCON we have to give an opportunity for leaders, that there are leaders in ISKCON. There are people who are leaders without having these authoritative positions, without being big figures and administrators.
Yes, Maharaj, perhaps I was making a slightly different point, is that that the leadership per se is deemed to be the topmost tier is the GBC, and this is just a point I was sharing on my observation, that people felt that there was a disjoint, that the leadership, the GBC leadership, they were unable to connect with them in the way that they wanted to.
To connect with?
The GBC.
Don't connect with who?
Sorry?
Who do the GBC not connect with?
They're saying that the GBC, this is not a general comment, this is specific to some of the yatras. There's some disturbance.
Mute yourself.
Maharaj, can you hear?
I can hear you, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Right. So the point was that the people, my goodness, there's so much chaos. I think
You've got.
I think I should drop this point.
No, it's a good point, Prabhu. It's very, very important point. I'm glad you brought it up. Please, don't drop it.
Thank you. The main point here was that, Maharaj, that there are many yatras, and I did extensive studies with them. They felt that the GBC leadership per se, in their zones, they were not connected with them. They didn't know what was the actual role of the GBC, how much time they spent in their yatras, what were the specific achievements. They couldn't define them. And I was doing a sort of not a reform, but how to improve various yatras around ISKCON. So I just happened to have that role, if you like, trying to improve various yatras and as a strategic management consultant. So this was a point that came up, Maharaj.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it would come up, definitely. We have a long way to go with these things. Actually, I got hold of a video which I do want to show you today. It's about, well, maybe you remember when the terrorists came in the Taj Hotel? Did you see that video?
Yes, Maharaj.
Did you see?
Yes.
Oh, you've seen it, eh? Oh, okay.
Oh, it's amazing. It's really amazing, Maharaj.
Oh, I know. I'm really amazed when I saw it. Yeah, it's just wonderful. Anyway, we'll show it to the other devotees. Maybe not everyone has seen it.
Yeah, Maharaj, I have not seen it. I have one request to make. You asked one question to Asa Prabhuji, and you mentioned that how the welfare of the people has to be applied in ISKCON. So, Maharaj, kindly enlighten us, please.
I wish I don't have the ability to solve all the problems in ISKCON. But we want to be aware, that there are certain leadership principles, and as we said, training, with good training, then we can implement them. What did Prabhupada expect from leaders? Prabhupada expected perfect sadhana. He expected very good sadhana. That is very important for all leaders. They must show the right example, their sadhana. It's supposed to be a principle that someone who's on the GBC, that they will come to Mongol Arti, they will attend the morning program, these kind of things. But nowadays, the way ISKCON goes today, things are not quite the same. But Prabhupada wanted that anyway, chanting 16 rounds, 4 principles, and morning program must be there for somebody who is a leader in ISKCON. Essential.
Maharaj?
Yes?
Along those lines, there's a point that I'd like to bring up. Before the Bhaktivedanta Veda-based folio came out, there was a Das version of that, and Kṛṣṇa Maharaj did research and all the letters that Srila Prabhupada wrote to GBCs. And the bottom line, the thing that he emphasized the most, was that the GBC take the responsibility to make sure that everybody in all the temples in their zone went to the morning program. That was the #1 priority that Prabhupada gave them. And of course, to do that, you've got to set the example. So it's an important aspect. And then naturally, personal exchanges will take place, in the ecstasy of sadhana. The devotees they'll see their leader, and there'll be friendships that develop from that. There'll be connections.
Yeah. And you develop a lot of trust just by, spending time every morning sitting chanting japa together, or by hearing the person give class, and like that, you develop trust in this person.
Bhakti Tirtha Swami was always present in the full morning program with japa. I saw the same thing he had so much love between himself and his followers. Same thing with Radha Swami. He's always there chanting japa. with the devotees, and it's super powerful. That's my experience, you know. So there's a whole mood that's created by that, and then you see temples like Chopati and Pune and Calcutta. They have the strongest sadhana practices in the world, practically speaking, because the leader sets the standard.
Yeah, right. So this very important point, sadhana. Yeah, must be above any doubt, right? No, should be no doubts about the person. You must have full trust in them. And then you can follow their instructions wholeheartedly. Okay, and Maharaj Yudhisthira himself was obedient to the instructions he got. He took instruction from Bhishma Dev and from Lord Kṛṣṇa, and he faithfully carried out their instructions. So the same way Prabhupada gives instructions, and the leaders in ISKCON have to follow these instructions themselves. Prabhupada taught us that the action speaks louder than words. If you just simply give instructions to others, it's not as. But if you don't follow yourself, it's no good. And any other points you can think about? Applicable for a leader in ISKCON, which we learn from Maharaj Yudhisthira. We spoke about training, and we spoke also about, now we spoke about the importance of the sadhana.
There's another point that occurs to me, is that if that a leader should see himself, should be a servant leader, and always be meditating on how I can help my project, how I can help them be stronger in their own Krishna consciousness. So that kind of meditation is just going to bear powerful fruit, if that's the modality of his consciousness.
Yes, right. Okay, that is concerned for the welfare of the fellow devotees. Maharaj Yudhisthira, by his rule, everything was arranged, everyone was provided for. So the same way, ISKCON leaders, they want to also be concerned for the welfare of other devotees. Devotee care, I mean, I see it goes on very nicely. I thought Gopal Krishna Maharaj is very caring, you know, he really went out of his way to help devotees. I remember when Shamsundar Prabhu, the astrologer, and his wife, they were in a bad accident, and his wife was practically bedridden for about a year. Maharaj took care of them. He arranged for them to be taken care of in Delhi temple. You know, so like that, he's very caring. So certainly Maharaj Yudhisthira also caring. You know, devotee leaders also, they care for others. It shouldn't just be in their own world, managing. I have to manage, thinking about only their managing. They have to think about the welfare of others. Difficult job, big job. Okay.
Maharaj?
Yes?
I was also thinking about the personal behavior of the leader with different devotees and also in different positions. You know?
Personal behavior. The example, yes. Well, we spoke about that. We spoke about the importance of sadhana and showing perfect behavior. Yeah, must be very strict.
I was thinking more about the dealing with the devotees, like behavior.
Dealings with devotees? Hmm? Can you give an example?
Yes, I was thinking about how the leader is dealing with different kinds of devotees, like devotees which are under his protection, devotees which are like others leaders, or you know, like Maharaj Yudhishthira when he was dealing with, when Krishna came to him, to visit him, Krishna gives the example that he fall down under the feet of Maharaj Yudhishthira, he embraced Arjuna, and I was that kind of dealing.
Okay, so yeah, having proper respect and relationships, personal relationships. Okay, we have to go on. Mood and mission. We didn't really pick out any examples from Srila Prabhupada's purports about Prabhupada's mood and mission. But Prabhupada did speak about the importance of the cows, and he does speak about how we don't want these factories don't really help us much. They're not really serving any good purpose. Just for a few people who they enjoy the wealth, and everybody else has to work in the horrible conditions of the factory. So Prabhupada certainly liked a more natural way of life, simple living, high thinking, more natural living. We have time to cultivate Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Somebody else picked up any other examples, Prabhupada's mood and mission? Prabhupada certainly wanted a better life for everyone. Prabhupada, before he left the world, he said, if I have done anything, I've given a better life for so many people. So Kṛṣṇa consciousness is to give people a better life. And not only spiritually, but materially also. And material life means enjoying the gifts of nature, not just the artificial resources, you know, the electronics and everything, but the gifts of nature. Prabhupada explains, if you have cotton and silk, and you have food, you have grains, you have milk, and you have jewels, everything provided by nature, what more do you want? We don't need these cinemas, we don't need this Wi-Fi, we don't need all of these things. We simply need Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So this is really Prabhupada's mood and mission. I don't know how relevant these things are to ISKCON leaders. Difficult to apply these things. You know, Prabhupada also was not against technology. And he expected us to keep up with technology. In order to distribute Kṛṣṇa consciousness, we have to keep up with technology. Just like we're using these different technological innovations, the satellites and so on, for the Zoom transmissions. And so Prabhupada expected us to do these things. We have to keep up with the innovations. We have to have websites and all these things. We have to be like everyone. We can't be behind. But we're not dependent on it. If it all falls apart, then we don't mind. We just, go along with what's going on in the world today. We just keep up with it, but we're not dependent on it. It's not like we're in love with it. Okay, the final quote by Prabhupada. Without being educated properly, the mass of people are following in the footsteps of the vested interests by exploiting natural reserves. And therefore, there is acute competition between individual and individual, and nation. There is no control by the trained agent of the Lord. We must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison here, and should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthira to cleanse man and wipe out anachronisms. Right? Wipe out anachronisms. Cleanse man. We have a lot of cleaning to do. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now, if anybody's interested, if you want, I can give you the link to that video about the Taj Mahal. It's about leadership from the bottom.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, please. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah? Okay, just a minute and I'll give you the link.
Yes, Maharaj.
Let me find where I think got it in my handphone here.